Okay, so let us resume the class. Good evening to all of you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Okay, so one more thing, sir, backup link has been shared with all of you on the emails. Okay, so that you can, in the meanwhile, when you talk about the weekends, you can re-see the videos if you require. So that means, and that backup you can review again and again as many times as possible till the prelims examination. So that backup link is open. Yeah, so you can see. Now, so today the location part will not be much today. We will be talking about the issues more, issues-based current affairs. And hence the list is very, very long today. So let's start without wasting any time. I hope you are revising well, and I expect from all of you. So in this regard, I feel satisfied if you are revising. So please revise. In case of any queries, so put back the query. And in case of any doubts, so put back a WhatsApp message. Yes, clear? So let's start now.
Sorry, sir. I didn't attend yesterday class because I had to rush somewhere for an emergency family case.
Okay, okay. So just a minute, just a minute. Okay. So who is speaking? Who is speaking?
Sir Anand.
Okay, Anand. So you were not able to attend yesterday?
Yes, sir, because I had to rush somewhere for an emergency family case.
Okay, so it's not an issue because I've already shared the class backup link. So the videos
Okay,
will be
sir.
there. And at the moment, only first video has been uploaded, the first class. By the night, all the videos will be there.
Okay, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So that you can watch the missing video by Sunday, you can easily watch. Yeah.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So let's start the class. Let's start with the topic called Indian Ocean. So Indian Ocean Rim Association, IORA. Now we know from the perspective of India, Indian Ocean is a very, very important strategically as well as what it's an area where the huge shipping routes ply via the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal connecting the Mediterranean Sea and from the Mediterranean Sea via Suez Canal even connecting the Malaccan Strait, yes, and going to the Far East. So when we talk about this area, yes, India is the biggest country in the Indian Ocean ring. And when we talk about is also connecting what mineral resource rich countries like oil resource countries, Middle East and African countries. So now this is a very important area. So let's talk about IORA. So which country is the current head or the chairperson? Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka has taken over. So just a moment. Okay, so Sri Lanka has taken over the chairmanship of the IORA, and Sri Lanka will remain the chairperson till what? 2025. So Sri Lanka is the current chair. Now it has taken over from Bangladesh. So the previous chair was Bangladesh. So now what is actually IORA? Yes, it is a government level organization. So it is an intergovernmental organization. So aimed at promoting regional cooperation. So major purpose of all the associations, the government associations or the intergovernment association is to always promote cooperation across various dimensions. Especially we talk about 4 or 5 are important. Political, economic, social, environmental, all these are the major areas of cooperation. So there are 23 member states bordering Indian Ocean and there are 10 dialogue partners. So 23 member states which are touching the Indian Ocean and dialogue partners which are not the part of Indian Ocean, but they are actually participating in terms of what, yes, strategic issues to be discussed. So dialogue partners. So now, so it was formed in 1997 and its secretariat is in Mauritius. So Mauritius is the basically secretariat, yes, where the administrative wing is sitting. So secretariat always means administrative wing. Now IORA is a regional forum which has got 3 major features, yes, tripartite in nature. So bringing together what? The representatives, government or business and academia. So that means bringing together government heads, the business heads, as well as what education institutions. Now we all know the government, business and academia are interlinked. So can anybody tell me what is the linkage between the government, the business and academia? Why they are to be what in sync, government, business and academics?
Policies, sir.
Yes, so policies, for example, business to grow also require policies and policies are created by the government. Now those business policies will also be requiring what the youth will be working in those businesses. So hence the education system should be matching the requirement, that is the job criteria. That means, so they should be making what students and the future employees employable for the businesses. Whereas all these three have to be working in sync for promoting.
So, but wouldn't it create a nexus?
It depends upon the policies. For example, when you talk about what type of business policies are you creating? Are you creating a policy which is favoring certain crony capitalists? Then again, it will be problematic. But when we talk about a thing called competitive capitalism, that can be favorable also. So that means we know the capitalism is better when there's a multiple players. And when the multiple players, it provides opportunity to various businesses and organizations, and hence create what more jobs in the country. And finally, the businesses have also to be following a purpose that is called 3P purpose. So we talk about concern about planet, people, as well as what the workers that they are working for. So the 3P approach should always there, triple bottom line. It depends upon the policy making of the country. But definitely all these three have to be working in sync. But what type of syncs? That has to be very balanced. Okay.
Understood.
Yes, Sai, was this your query?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, for example, when you talk about the Western European countries, the Scandinavian countries, they follow a system what welfare capitalism. So there, the system is they promote competitive capitalism. Finally, the end beneficiaries are the consumers and the people. But when you talk about certain countries, which also includes India, we promote only tilted capitalism, that is called crony capitalism. So that is problematic. Clear? So, yes, tell.
No, sir, I say understood. Thank you.
Okay, no, if you have got queries, so just please ask. It's not an issue at all.
No, sir, understood it.
Okay. So it depends upon, see, business are required by each and every country. It depends upon how you are managing those businesses by creating what policies which are non-discriminatory in nature. So it depends upon the policy making of the government. Now, further, it is based on the principles of what? Open regionalism. Now, open regionalism means this organization, though of regional nature, is open for all, providing those countries are going to add to the value system of IORA. So here, so it is based on principles of open regionalism. It means clearly it's an open membership in the regional arrangement. Any country that indicates a willingness to accept the rules of the institutions would be invited to join. Yes. So that means even the countries which are outside the Indian Ocean rim can also join. Yes. First of all, maybe as dialogue partners, maybe if the consensus there, they can also be accepted as members. So here, IORA is follow the principle of open regionalism. Now, further, so current 23 member states, let's see the map. So now, so Indian map should be complete. Yes. Usually it's difficult to find on what Google. Now, but when you talk about these countries, yes, so Indian Ocean rim. So which country is not the part of IORA? Though the shores are touching Indian Ocean or the Arabian Sea, that is Pakistan is not the part of IORA. So Pakistan is not a part. Okay. Now, so that means so Iran, Oman, Yemen, UAE. So that means Persian Gulf, okay, and Gulf of Oman, and finally these are important areas. So Yemen, Djibouti, Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Comoros, and France is the latest member to join. But France to what? There's an island of Reunion here. Yes, Reunion. It's an island which is still controlled by France. So hence France is also seen as a member here. Now, definitely on the other side, we find what? Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Australia. So these are the members, IORA members. So dialogue partners, so yes, these are dialogue partners which are not touching the shores of Indian Ocean. So there are various countries as dialogue partners. So it's not what necessary to read and revise or learn all those dialogue partners, but dialogue partners are those which are not touching the Indian Ocean, majorly, and the bigger countries. Now, what is the IORA? Identified 6 priority areas. So priority areas usually you can easily remember. So definitely maritime security, because huge trade is passing through Suez Canal, as well as what? Strait of Malacca. So trade and investment facilitation, fisheries management, disaster, yes. So hence again what we find here. So here various what cyclone prone areas, academic and scientific cooperation, and tourism and promotion of cultural exchanges. So all these are the 6 major areas for cooperation. Now the significance, IORA and its significance. So now, so trade routes, I've already explained. There are various countries who are rich in cultural diversity. And yes, what we require is cultural exchange, cooperation. Now, international cooperation is for anti-piracy. So we know that the areas around Somalia, yes, Gulf of Aden. So there's a what frequent what pirate attacks. So hence, overall security is required. So IORA maintains the balance in the trade flow because disruption in the trade flow that is passing through the Indian Ocean region can lead to what? Yes, economic distress for various nations and rise in prices, inflation, which can impact various people. So hence, this is a very important area and definitely comes within India's area of influence, IORA. Now comes the next, Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development. Asia Pacific. Now, what is AIBD? Now, first of all, India has been elected again as the chairperson or the president for the 3rd successive term. So, India has been elected president of the Asia Pacific Institute of Broadcasting Development for the 3rd successive term. Now, how this came into being? So, AIBD was established in 1977, again under what? United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organizations, UNESCO. Now we know UNESCO promotes education, UNESCO promotes preservation of culture, scientific scientific researches and development. So UNESCO is basically promoting what? Education. And when we talk about the media is also part of awareness and education. So now Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development. Now India has been now the president for the 3rd successive term. So it has got its origin in 1977, yes, out promoted by UNESCO. Now, when you see this, it is again a unique regional intergovernmental organization servicing countries of the UNESCAP. So day before yesterday, UNESCAP came into picture. So one of the 6 major organs of United Nations is United Nations Economic and Social Council. It has got 5 sub-regions. One of the sub-regions is what? Yes, your Asia and Pacific. So UNESCAP is one of the 5 regional commissions under the jurisdiction of United Nations Economic and Social Council with headquarters at Bangkok, Thailand. Now, AIBD Secretariat where? In Kuala Lumpur. That is Malaysia. And that is why it is hosted by the government of Malaysia. So what is to be achieved through this? Vibrant and cohesive electronic media environment. So India is one of the founding members. So again, remember, important, India is one of the founding members. And which media organization represents India in AIBD? Prasar Bharati. So Prasar Bharati is the India's public service broadcaster, is a representative body of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, AIBD. So yes, it is a statutory body. That means it is backed up by a act of the parliament. So it was established under Prasar Bharati Act in 1997. So again, these type of things are also asked by UPSC in what questions, which are the following institutions or bodies are statutory bodies, okay, constitutional bodies created through executive order. So Prasar Bharati is a statutory body. Now, Prasar Bharati's corporation's main objective is to provide autonomy to Doordarshan and Akashvani. The purpose is to educate and entertain the public. So education and entertainment means there's a term called infotainment. Yes. So information plus entertainment. Information plus entertainment. Infotainment. So AIBD, so India is the 3rd time successive president of AIBD. So AIBD has got an origin, yes, way back. Now we're talking about AIBD, the purpose is to promote, yes, media, yes, interaction among the countries, also help in what more transparency, the flow of information. When I talk about India's representation through Prasar Bharati, which is a statutory body, headquarters, secretariat, sorry, Kuala Lumpur. UNESCAP headquarters in Bangkok, Thailand. Now the founding members, now there are certain organizations which are very, very important. There are certain what UN specialized agencies. Now I have given a list of what UN specialized agencies in this to show you that you have to read all those specialized agencies which are around 15 in number, yes, from the background and the current status. So, but in this 3 or 4 organizations are being shown. So we will covering 3 or 4 here. Rest you are supposed to read on your own. I will tell you the source. Now, founding members, so ITU, International Telecommunication Union. Then UNDP, United Nations Development Program, UNESCO, and Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union. So these are the founding members. And these are non-voting members. So countries here are the voting members, and these organizations are the non-voting members here. Now, AIBD currently has what 92 member organizations from 44 countries, which belong to Asia, Pacific, Europe, Africa, and certain what Arab states and North America. Now, it hosts what? AIBD hosts annually Asia Media Summit as an annual conference in collaboration with its partners and international organizations. Now, conference is attended by various decision makers and various what stakeholders. So AIBD annually conducts Asia Media Summit. Yes. So what we are gaining from here is there are various founding organizations which are the non-voting members, and some of these are what United Nations specialized institutions or agencies. For example, let's talk about ITU, International Telecommunication Union. So what are the basically the task of ITU? First of all, it is a United Nations specialized agency for information and communication technologies. So we know United Nations is a global government. So that means all the things which are happening across the world, there is a managing institution. These managing institutions are the specialized agencies of United Nations. So one of the agencies is International Telecommunication Union, which is supposed to manage the information and communication technologies spread, development, and yes, transparency across the world. Now here, again, it's an intergovernmental organization that coordinates between both the government sector as well as the private sector bodies. So coordination is the task between who? The state actor, and the private sector is the non-state actor. With respect to global telecommunication, information communication technology services. Now, it was established initially in 1865. This is way back. So here, note. So it emerged as International Telegraph Union in 1865. And in 1947, ITU became the specialized agency of the United Nations. So there's a long background to this institution. So 1865 as International Telegraph Union. Headquarters, Geneva, Switzerland. Membership, 193 countries and nearly 800 private sector entities and academic institutions. So 193 countries, almost all the United Nations countries are covered under that. So it's called a global spread. So functions, it also allocate global radio spectrums and also satellite orbits to various countries which are launching various space missions. Now, coordination and setting of technical standards related to telecommunication standards. So very important, allocation spectrum and satellite orbits, yes. Strive to improve access to ICTs in unserved communities worldwide. Yes, wherever the information communication technology is not reaching or where there are gaps in implementation, they're actually promoting there. Now, India and ITU. India has been an active member of ITU since 1869. Yes, during the time of Britishers. So that means from which time period? From the time period of International Telegraph Union. And now has been a regular member of the ITU Council since 1952 after independence. Okay. So ITU has got a long history going back to 1865. So all these agencies become very important because UPSC can ask any of these agencies because all those agencies are linked with what global management of development across various SDG goals. Now, UNDP, United Nations Development Program. So UNDP is a United Nations agency tasked with helping countries eliminate poverty and achieve sustainable economic growth and human development. So, as a UN's development agency plays a critical role in helping countries achieve SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Established in 1966 by General Assembly of the United Nations. So, UNGA, United Nations General Assembly. Now, UNDP's work is concentrated in three focus areas. Yes, sustainable development, promoting democratic governance and peace building, and climate and disaster resilience. Because sustainable development cannot happen without climate and disaster resilience. Sustainable development cannot happen with more democratization of the grassroots governance, cannot happen. So all these work together, all these work together. Now funding, how it gets its funding? It is funded entirely by voluntary contributions. Okay, so voluntary contributions, so this is not compulsory for all the countries to contribute, is voluntary in nature. Any country can contribute any amount of money. Now, headquarters, New York, USA. And there are various international reports published by it, like SDI report, Human Development Index, SDG reports, and also Gender Inequality Index. So there are various international reports released by it, majorly SDI, SDG, and Gender Inequality Index. So hence UNDP becomes important. Now let's talk about UNESCO. UNESCO is to be covered in little more detail because UNESCO is linked with heritage sites also. Okay, so hence something UPSC can ask on the basis of heritage sites. So again, specialized agency, it seeks to build peace through international cooperation, where in education, the sciences, and culture. That means the purpose is to promote education, cultural education by cultural conservation, scientific education by scientific research, and education includes communication of all types. Now, it is also a member of the United Nations Sustainable Development Group, UNSDG. It is the member. Just a minute. Now, so it is a member of United Nations Sustainable Development Group, a coalition of UN agencies. UNESCO's headquarters are located in Paris. Again, it has got a membership of 193 states, all the countries in the UN system, and 11 associate members. Associate members are those which are not independent countries, but they are controlled or under the command and control of what other countries. For example, Greenland. Greenland is under the command of Denmark. Yes. So even 11 associate members. So the associate members are not independent states. It is worth noting that now this is interesting. It is worth noting that not all member states of the UN are the members of UNESCO. That means there may be certain countries, though the part of the UN system, are not the part of UNESCO. Now, which are those? The three countries. There are three nations that are members of the UN, but not the members of UNESCO. These are United States, Israel, and Liechtenstein. Now, the US and Israel were members, but they pulled out of the organization, citing biasness against Israel. Whatever they're thinking, so Israel lobby works differently in US. Okay, so it's different thing altogether. It's completely political in nature. Now, the three UNESCO member countries which are not the UN members are the Cook Islands, the Palestine. These are the non-UN. So these can be associate countries. Now, UNESCO's World Heritage Sites. Now, this is the area where UPSC can ask question. UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Now, a World Heritage Site is a landmark or area with the legal protection by an international convention. Now administered by UNESCO, legal protection. So yes, when a site is recognized as a cultural site or a historical site, though it will be the site of a particular country, responsibility of the country is also for the preserving that, but also the entire world is a stakeholder because that cultural thing is for the entire humanity. So with legal protection by international convention. So World Heritage Sites are designated by UNESCO for having cultural, historical, scientific, or other forms of significance. cultural, historical, scientific, or other forms of significance. The sites are just to contain cultural and natural heritage around the world, being of outstanding value to humanity. Now, how this system of heritage emerged from the Convention of 1972. It was termed as World Heritage Convention held in Paris, 1972. Now, what is the procedure? Yes, there is a procedure. How to ultimately register a particular site as a cultural site. Now, for a site to be inscribed as a World Heritage Site, it must go through certain nomination and evaluation process. So first of all, for example, if India has to get 4 or 5 sites registered, so it has to ultimately include that into a tentative list. Okay, that means we have got a plan to include certain sites into as a UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So that is now included into the tentative list which is submitted. Now there will be advisory committees which will be advising whether these sites match the merit of a World Heritage Site or not. And when the approval comes from the advisory committees, so now the approval is finalized by World Heritage Committee. So the entire process takes around 5, 6, or maybe 10 years. Yes, 5, 6, or maybe 10 years. So which are those advisory committees which give advice? So UNESCO's advisory bodies are, first of all, International Council of Monuments and Sites, ICOMOS, for the cultural sites, and the IUCN for the natural sites. So the two advisory bodies are ICOMOS for the cultural sites and for the natural sites, IUCN. And finally, a site must demonstrate what? Outstanding universal value. That means World Heritage Site, it had got its origin in what 1972 World Heritage Convention in Paris. There's a process, tentative list, advisory committee recommendation, and finally approval by World Heritage Sites. Two advisory committees, one is ICOMOS and one is IUCN. And the site should be tested on the evaluation on the outstanding universal value. Now, what happens when the legal status is being given to that site? Once it's inscribed, each World Heritage Site remains the property of the country. So it will remain the property of that particular country or state. But protection and preservation of its outstanding universal value becomes a shared responsibility of the entire humanity. That means the entire world has now got a stake in preserving that anywhere. Okay? So it becomes a shared responsibility of the entire humanity. The legal implications. The member states have a certain obligation to ensure identification, protection, conservation, and revalorization and transmission to future generation. That means there should be continuity in hand over the preserved sites to the future generations. That means that it should be benefiting for the times to come also. So states are expected to integrate heritage protection. That's why we bring various schemes like when you talk about there's a scheme like Prasad, yes. So there's a scheme like Heritage Cities Development and Augmentation Yojana. Then adopt a heritage scheme, yes. So all these CFA schemes are required. So integrate heritage protection into regional planning programs. So you need to link such type of schemes with such type of the global initiative. The states are also encouraged to strengthen appreciation and respect for heritage through education and information programs. Now, India has been blessed with various historical and cultural sites as well as natural diversity. India is very rich in history as well as culture, or as well as geography. So now in all, there are 42 UNESCO sites in our country. Out of these, 34 are cultural sites, 7 are natural, and 2 are mixed. Mixed means having the combination of historical, cultural feature also, and also geographical feature also. These 2 are mixed. Now, which are those sites? So you need to search, yes. You need to search, yes. So you need to search all the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, yes. Just go through the list. And which are the cultural ones, which are the natural ones, and which are the 2 mixed ones. Now, so that means certain things you need to do on your own also, okay? Otherwise, I will be, if I include all those 42, it will take more time. So you just search. Now, so as I've shown you, I have shown you what certain UN special agencies. Similarly, you need to read about each and every UNESCO special agency. So there's a list of what 15. You must have heard about FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. You must have heard about International Civil Aviation Organization, which manage the entire what air traffic across the world. International Fund for Agriculture Development, ILO, International Maritime Organization. Okay. Now mixed is only one. Okay, good. That means Bhumika is reading current affairs well. Now International Monetary Fund, ITU we have just discussed, UNESCO, UNIDO, Universal Postal Union, World Bank Group, World Health Organization, World Intellectual Property Organization, World Meteorological Organization, World Tourism Organization. Just go through the background. Yes, Sai, you can speak. Everyone is unmuted.
So, in all these organizations, what are the important points that we must read or remember?
For example, the background of their formation. Okay. Then secondly, are they what intergovernmental organizations only, or they also invite other stakeholders like private sectors or institutions or other education institutions? So who are the stakeholders concerned? Where is the headquarter? Okay. Okay. If something specific is mentioned about India and its association with these organizations, also take that into consideration. So 4 or 5 major things are to be seen. Yes. Okay. The year of their foundation. Okay. Where it originated, the detailed purpose, stakeholders. Okay. How frequently they meet in terms of what, if there's a global convention, if what is India's what stake in that. So these are the 4 or 5 things to manage. Clear?
Okay, sir.
So now let's talk about an organization which is called Arab League. Now Arab League. Now, what we see Arab League, so that means all the Arab countries which are there in Asia as well as what Africa. Yes, so all those Arab countries. Now, Arab League, also called League of Arab States, is an again intergovernmental pan-Arab organization of all Arab states where in Middle East as well as North America. So Arab League. Now, it has got its origin in what? Cairo. In 1945. Cairo in 1945. Okay, Muskan and Bhumika, Kanchenjunga National Park is now the only remaining. Earlier, the Rani Ki Vav was also there. Now it's only one. Okay, thank you. So now, according to the latest update, only one mixed. Yes, one mixed. Okay, so Arab League, also called League of Arab States, is an intergovernmental pan-Arab organization of all Arab states. That is in the Middle East as well as North Africa. So when we talk about North Africa, it's basically West Africa, starting from Mauritania. Yes, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt. Now, it also includes Sudan and also Djibouti and Somalia. And when we talk about the Middle East, so all those in the entire Arabian Peninsula, that is Yemen, Oman, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain. Bahrain is an island nation. Okay, Saudi Arabia, occupying the major Arabian Peninsula, Iraq, Jordan, Syria. So which country is not there? Iran is not the member of Arab state because Iran is not an Arab state. Yes, Iran. So they are Persians. They are different from Arabs. So Persians, the Iran are Persians. So they are different from Arabs. So Iran is not a member of what? Arab League. So hence, do not get confused. Otherwise, people get confused. If Iraq is there, then Iran should also be there. No, that's not a correlation. So Persia is different from Arabs. Now, it was formed in Cairo, Egypt in 1945, following the adoption of what? Alexandria Protocol in 1944. Yes, Alexandria Protocol. So Alexandria Protocol is linked with what? Origin of Arab states or League of Arab States. So the members. So 22 Arab countries. So we have just seen on the map those Arab countries. Objective again. So that means when you're creating association, so again the purpose will be remaining the same. 4 or 5 major areas of cooperation: political, cultural, economic, social programs. Further, the signing of in 1950, there was an agreement on joint defense and economic cooperation. But what we have seen is Middle East was in flux, North Africa was in flux due to various wars, but we have not seen any collective effort from the Arab states to safeguard their countries which are falling within their membership. So we have not seen a collective approach. Iraq was under invasion, Syria was under invasion. So the same thing happened, upheaval happened even in Libya. Okay, so today what we are seeing is Palestine under invasion. We have not seen any major action from the Arab states. Now, council. The highest body of the league is the council. The highest body is the council. And now this is composed of what? Representatives of member states. So representatives of member states, usually who comes as representative? Foreign ministers. Now, league makes decisions on majority basis. So that means decision making is based on majority, but there is no mechanism to compel members to comply with resolutions. That means they are not binding. That means they are not binding. So there is no mechanism to compel members to comply with resolutions. But yes, first of all the members have got one vote in the council, and decisions become binding when they are voted. So if the country vote in a decision making, then it is binding for the country. If the country is abstained, that means it is not binding for the country. So hence each member has one vote on the council, decisions being binding only on those states that have voted for them, So 1955 is the origin of this. 1945 is the origin of this Arab League. Alexandria. Now, when you talk about 22 Arab countries, okay, joint defense agreement is also there, but usually used. And the highest decision-making body is council, usually represented by the foreign ministers. And decisions on majority basis, the decision becomes binding if the country has voted for it. Concerns. So concerns I've already told is that they have not become very active in terms of what helping the country under target or war within their respective membership. The league has been criticized for its lack of effectiveness in enforcing decisions and resolving conflicts among its members. So this is a major question mark on the Arab League. Now there's one more thing that also comes into picture is GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council. Now again, it's a political and economic alliance of 6 Middle Eastern countries. 6 Middle East countries, Gulf. So Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain and Oman. Again, those lying in what? Arabian Peninsula. Again, those countries lying in Arabian Peninsula. So Gulf Cooperation Council. Again, Iran is not the member here. So Iran is neither the member of GCC, Iran is nor the member of or League of Arab States. So GCC was established in Riyadh, that is the capital of Saudi Arabia, in 1981. Again, achieved unity among its members, and which is actually rooted in the Arab and Islamic culture. So they're almost similar what Arabic and Islamic culture. So the culture connects them. Now the organizational structure. Now it has got a Supreme Council. First of all, the Supreme Council is at the top. Highest authority, it is composed of what now? Heads of the states. The Supreme Council comprised of the heads of the state. Usually the head of states in some of these countries are the kings there. Yes, kings. So those are the heads of the states. Now the presidency rotates periodically among the member states in alphabetical order. So presidency rotates on the basis of alphabetical order, alphabetical names of the country. And this period is usually annual. So annually the presidency rotates on the basis of the alphabetical names of the countries. After Supreme Council comes the Ministerial Council. Now it is composed of the foreign ministers of all the member states or other ministers. Now it meets every 3 months. So I mean, heads of states are meeting in the Supreme Council maybe once a year. But when we talk about the Ministerial Council represented by the foreign ministers, they are meeting every 3 months to implement the decisions of the Supreme Council. Then comes the Secretariat General. So Secretariat means administrative arm. So that means two organizations, GCC and League of Arab States. Now, there's another term which is being used for Middle East and North African region, that is called MENA, yes, or MENA. So MENA is a term that combines Middle East and North Africa. So again, significance of the Middle East and North Africa for India. So we know Middle East, yes, India is energy deficit country in terms of mineral resources. So we are heavily dependent upon the Middle Eastern states or the countries, and there's a huge expatriate population of India working there. Yes. So the two most important reasons for relationship are the oil and gas trade, and two additional reasons are a huge number of Indians who work in the Gulf countries and send remittances to home. That means we also earn foreign exchange. Yes, remittances. So hence Middle East ultimately benefits are what scenario, what economy and trade. So Middle East. Similarly, when I talk about North Africa. So North Africa, nations like Morocco and Algeria are the important gateways to other parts of Africa. That is for reaching the Francophone Africa, that is French-speaking African nations. So where are these French-speaking African nations? In which area?
Sahel.
Sahel, yes, Sahel the area. So we have just discussed which are usually unstable due to military coups. Okay. Now, North Africa is significant for India because of its potential for the clean sources of energy. So it is lying along the Mediterranean Sea. So there's a huge potential for wind energy, and these are usually dry areas, so huge solar energy. So India is planning to exploit those resources, okay, and selling that within those areas and even neighboring countries and earn money for the country. Yes. So India wants to get access to those type of potential areas of green energy. Now, the Suez Canal also puts North Africa as the crossroads of global trade. So hence, that means by having good relationship with Middle East and North African countries opens up opportunity for India. Hence, this area, which is a combination of Middle East and North Africa, is known as MENA, M-E-N-A. Yes. Now, let us talk about something in more detail today, yes, which is a very different international law on war and international humanitarian law. So wars, so for the last 2 years, the Ukraine-Russia war, and now for the last almost 6 months, what we are seeing is Israel and Gaza. Yes. Now that means in both the wars, enormous humanitarian laws, the war laws have been violated. Now, what is the gold standard? Yes, when we talk about a standard with respect to wars, there are various protocols. So we should be knowing all those protocols, and we'll going through all those protocols one by one. Now, so starts with Geneva Conventions. Now, Geneva Conventions, and there are 3 additional protocols also. Additional protocols are 3. So 4 Geneva Conventions and 3 additional protocols are the international treaties that contain the most important rules limiting the barbarity of war. That means wars should be justified, war should be short, war should not be troubling the civilians, war should be leading toward release of POWs. Yes, that means expecting the most ethical standards in war. But actually, what is being followed? Pyaro jang mein sab jaiz hai. Yes, so that is actually the wrong notion. Yes, so there should also be certain standards when the countries go for war, or even there's an internal disturbance within the country also. There should be certain standards which have to be maintained. So let's see all those things one by one. So they try to protect people who do not take part in fighting, that is civilians, doctors, aid workers. But what we are seeing is relentless shelling, which hurt and kill both the civilians also, the doctors also, aid workers also. And that means those who also no longer fight, that is the wounded soldiers. So all those people should be saved from war. So hence, this started from certain conventions. So first major convention was the first Geneva Convention of 1864. First Geneva Convention of 1864. So this convention talked about that there should be a method of helping the wounded soldiers on the basis of what? Land-based wars or land-based battles. So here, the first Geneva Convention protects wounded and sick soldiers on land during war. That means land-based wars and battles. Land wars and battles. Which are fought on land, not on seas. And at that time, there was no air force because it came before the invention of aeroplane, 1864. Okay, so that means it was talking about land-based war. Geneva Convention 2 is talking about sea-based war. Yes. Now, so first Geneva Convention protects wounded and sick soldiers on land during war. They provide protection also for the wounded and sick, but also for the doctors and also religious personals, medical units and medical transports. That means facilitation the movement of medical transportation, medical goods, doctors, assistants, and even religious preachers if they are required to bury the dead. Yes. Okay. So all those people, yes. So religious personals. So hence it has got two annexes, yes, which are to be followed. First is there's a draft agreement related to hospital zones. So hospital zones should be properly demarcated. They should not be attacked. Hospital zones. And there should be model ID cards for medical and religious personnel so that they can be identified. Okay, so they can be identified. So that was the thing that was set up by first Geneva Convention of 1864. Clear? This was the origin. Now, let's talk about second Geneva Convention, 1949. These are the potential areas where UPSC can ask questions because of ongoing wars. So Geneva Convention, 1949. Now, the second Geneva Convention now protects wounded, sick, and shipwrecked military personnel at sea during war. That means now, if the boat has been attacked or the ship has been attacked, and now they are wounded soldiers, so that means whoever who are now on sea, wounded, so they should also be safeguarded. So this convention replaced the Hague Convention 1907 for the adaptation to maritime warfare of the principles of Geneva Convention. So initially there was a rudimentary, yes, Hague Convention for safeguarding the people involved in the sea-based war and getting injured. But it was upgraded to the level of the erstwhile Geneva Convention, which was applicable for the land to be made applicable for the sea-based wars also. Okay, sea-based wars also. So now second Geneva Convention 1949. So first, just remember for the land-based battles and for the wounded. Second Geneva Convention also included what? Sea-based battle and the wounded. Now, so even it protects what? Hospital ships. Yes, so there can be special ships, okay, which can be converted into hospitals for the treatment of the wounded soldiers. The same type of thing. Now, the third Geneva Convention, 1949. The third Geneva Convention applies to prisoners of war. Prisoners of war. Now, POWs. So the first two were linked with what? Wounded soldiers. Now let us talk about those prisoners of war which are taken by either sides. Now, how to treat the prisoners of war? So this convention replaced the Prisoners of War Convention of 1929. So again, there was an erstwhile convention, that is Prisoners of War Convention, which was now formally replaced by the Geneva Convention 3. Now, categories of persons entitled to prisoners of war status were broadened in accordance with Convention 1 and Convention 2. That means those who are wounded in the land-based war and now arrested, okay, and even the sea-based war and arrested. Yes, so that means broadening the definition and the range of POWs. Hence, the conditions where they should be, in what condition they should be kept, places of captivity were more precisely defined, particularly with regard to the labor of prisoners of war, their financial resources, the relief they receive, and a judicial proceeding instigated against them. That means if they are being forced to work in the prison, so that means what type of work? Now, if they are supposed to earn from prison work, so financial resources they are going to generate, the relief they receive in terms of what? The medical assistance and anything, and if there are proceedings by the military courts or normal judicial courts, yes, so what should be the method? Now, the convention established the principles that prisoners of war shall be released and repatriated without delay after the cessation of the conflict. Yes, that means after ending the war, there should be immediate exchange of prisoners of war. Now, there have been certain very good movies, yes, or Hollywood movies on what this issue. If you want to see a very beautiful movie on the issue of POW, that is The Railwaymen. Yes, if you want to see, it's a very beautiful movie on World War II. And have you also seen a Bridge on River Kwai? Have you heard about this movie? Bridge on River Kwai. Bridge on River Kwai is basically a bridge in maybe the Thailand, which was being constructed by the British prisoners of war under Japanese World War II. So these are certain interesting movies which you can add on, provided you've got the time to see the movies. Yes. Okay. Now, okay. So just note down. Was Bridge on River Kwai, KWAI. Very interesting movie, very good movie, just see it. And The Railwaymen. Now comes the fourth Geneva Convention, 1949. So again, so I hope now you can recall the Geneva Convention was way back, 1864. Rest of three Geneva Conventions came in 1949. Okay. Way back 1864 started with what? Land-based wounded soldiers. Second, that means sea-based wounded soldiers. Third, prisoners of war. And now fourth, this is being linked with what? This is being linked with what? The civilians now. Fourth Geneva Convention, 1949. The fourth Geneva Convention affords protection for civilians now, including in occupied territory. Currently, Singholi Bridges is dead. Okay, syllabus पूरा हो जाए वही बड़ी बात है. Yes, I understand your plight. I understand. I deeply associate with that. Okay. Now, the fourth Geneva Convention affords protection to civilians, including in occupied territory. The events, why this concern for civilians came? Yes, because World War II, there was a relentless shelling of the towns, cities, villages, which led to the killing of what? Innocent civilians. Okay, so that brought to the consciousness of the world, yes, the civilians should be protected in wars. Okay, so the non-combatants means that those who are not fighting should be protected now. So the events of the World War II showed the disastrous consequences of the absence of a convention for the protection of civilians. Hence, the convention of 1949 takes account of the experiences of World War II. That means the people who are non-combatants should be protected. Now, so I hope the fourth Geneva Convention is very clear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, let's talk about a common article. Yes, a common article, that is article number 3. Yes, it is termed as a mini convention within the convention. So let's see what is common article 3 states. Article 3, which is common to all the 4 Geneva Conventions. This is common to all the 4 Geneva Conventions. This marked a breakthrough. For the first time, it also started to apply the Geneva Conventions to non-international armed conflicts. Earlier, the Geneva Convention was between the nations who are at war with each other. Now, it was now trying to extend all the 4 Geneva Conventions to non-international armed conflicts. That means which can be civil wars, okay, which can be wars between the 2 communities or means 2 ethnicities also. Okay? So that is traditional civil wars. And
so the Israel war with Hamas, is it covered under this article?
Yes, till the time when we talk about the West Bank and Gaza are not recognized as the independent Palestinian state. Okay, so that means so that means it can be seen as an internal issue. So internal issue. So that means so all the 4 Geneva Conventions apply here, coming under what? Common Article 3. Yes, you are absolutely right. So hence it is like a mini convention within the conventions, as it contains the essential rules of the Geneva Convention in a condensed format and makes them applicable to conflicts not of an international character. Thus clearly it is written, not of an international character. So common Article 3. Now, the states which are party to Geneva Convention, how many states are party to the Geneva Conventions? The Geneva Conventions entered into force when on 21st October 1950. So Geneva Convention 1949, they came into what force from 21st October 1950. That is 1 year after the Geneva Conventions. So ratification have brought about how many countries? Total number of state parties 196. That means it has got a global spread. It has got a global spread. Yes, we have to see, we have to reread the article, Muskan, whether on which clause the South Africa has raised the issue with respect to International Court of Justice, okay. ICJ. And today we'll also be doing ICJ. ICJ also have got enormous various clauses, okay. So we'll also be seeing those, which clause fits where in terms of complaint. So now, for Geneva Conventions, one common Article 3, which is now talking about internal conflicts. That means applying the convention's guidelines to the internal conflicts of non-international nature. Now let's talk about the additional protocols, which were later added with respect to more requirements. And these came from 1977. In response to two protocols, in the 2 decades that followed the adoption of the Geneva Conventions, the world witnessed more changes in the number of non-international armed conflicts. That means civil wars were expanding throughout the world, especially in African countries. There are also wars for independence going on. Yes, the wars of national liberation going on. So in response to protocols additional to the 1949 Geneva Conventions were adopted in 1977. No, which were those 2 additional? Protection of victims of International Protocol 1 and non-international Protocol 2 armed conflicts, and place limits on the way the wars are being fought. So now, more detailed guidelines for the international conflicts as Protocol 1, more detailed guidelines with respect to what Protocol 2, that is non-international, and putting the limits on the manners the war is being fought. Protocol 2 was the first ever international treaty devoted exclusively to situations of non-international armed conflicts. Protocol 2. That means the issue of the Israel can also be through what Protocol 2 additional protocol, which can be raised. Now, the third additional protocol, that is 2005, was the adoption of a new emblem, that is symbol, that is called red crystal. We know there's a red cross. Okay, so red cross has an origin way back from 1864 only. Then came red crescent. Now, two emblems were followed in the Geneva Conventions. Yes, red cross and red crescent. Red cross was symbolic of the Christian countries. Red crescent was symbolic of the Islamic countries. So the red crescent was adopted by the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire now. So red cross means these are for facilitation of the injured, okay, the medical emergencies. That means the staff working for Red Cross and Red Crescent, they should not be attacked during war. Okay. Now, so hence, since January 2007, it has been possible to use this emblem, that is a new emblem, that is red crystal. Now, red crystal for whom? Red crystal for those which are neutral in nature. That means which is not reflective of any religion. Red cross is reflective of Christianity. Okay, red crescent is reflective of Islamic countries. So hence the red crystal was added, which is neutral in nature. The purpose for identifying persons and objects entitled to special protection. Okay, now. Okay, so additional protocol 1, international conflicts and protection of civilians. Additional protocol 2, non-international conflicts and protection of civilians. And additional protocol 3, additional distinctive emblem. So Protocol 1 and Protocol 2 came in 1977 and this came in 2005 or 6. What was the exact year? Applied from 2007, 2005. Yes, addition protocol 2005. Now, just again a brief about Red Cross now. So Red Cross, an international organization that takes care of people who are suffering because of war, hunger, disease and other problems. The World Red Cross Day is observed on May 8th on the birth anniversary of what? Henry Dunant, who was the founder of the International Committee of the Red Cross. International Committee of the Red Cross. So Henry Dunant was the recipient of the first Nobel Peace Prize in 1901. This is also important information. In 1901. An International Committee of Red Cross founded by him also came in 1864, the same year of the first Geneva Convention. Same year, 1864, the first Geneva Convention, and the same year, the International Committee of Red Cross was also founded. Hence, Red Cross was the original protection symbol declared at the first Geneva Convention, 1864. Clear? First. So, Red Cross is the name used in the countries under Christian sponsorship, while Red Crescent is used in Muslim countries. It was first adopted by the Ottomans. Now, Red Crystal, which was finally came into what existence from 2007, it's an additional neutral protection symbol, which is not linked with any religion. So I hope the Geneva Convention is very clear. Additional protocols are very clear. What is Article 3? Yes, these are very clear. And what is a Red Crescent, Red Crystal, and Red Cross? Now, let's move forward. Now, there comes a theory that is called just war theory. Okay, just war theory. Now, this looks like what? Very oxymoronic. Yes. So, just war. It looks like an oxymoron. There are the two things which are almost opposite: a war and a war should be just. Yes. So, just war. But definitely, there's always a way of fighting a game, as well as there's always a way of also fighting with a fist fight also. So there should be standards, yes. So just war theory, also known as just war doctrine, is a set of ethical and philosophical principles that provide criteria for assessing the morality of the armed conflicts. As per the theory, taking human life is wrong, but the states have a duty to defend. Yes, clear? So we know taking others' life is wrong, but when we talk about a state which is supposed to protect its own citizens, many times the state has to take actions which can lead to war. So taking human life is wrong, but states have a duty to defend its citizens. It offers a framework for determining when and how war can be morally justified. Yes. When the war be justified, when it's required, and how means the method of conducting it. How should be conducted. The main components of just war theory include, there are three phases. Okay. Before going to the war, during war, and post-war. Here, three phases now. Let's start with the first phase. The first phase is just ad bellum. Just as bellum is deciding whether to go for the war or not, and what methods and criteria should be focused. So these are the criteria that pertain to the justification of going to war. Justification of going to war. It finds its source in what? UN's Charter of 1945. UN's Charter of 1945. And the criteria are, yes, there should be just cause. The war must have a morally legitimate reason, such as self-defense or the defense of others or protection against a grave injustice. That means you can only go for the war if if you are going to defend yourself or to defend a territory which is ultimately under what war and suffocation on by using unjust means. Yes, so there are ways. So that means you have to show the moral side of going to the war. That's why when we talk about Ministry of Defense. Yes, we talk about Ministry of Defense. We never talk about Ministry of Offense. So Ministry of Defense is there. Yes, that's the reason. Yes, there's the reason all the worlds are having what? Ministry of Defense, not Ministry of Offense. Okay, so because just cause. Now, right authority, only the legitimate government authorities have the right to declare war. Naturally, it is expected that the government should be going for a war for a just cause, and it should be declared through the right authorities. That's why President of India is the commander of the armed forces in a country. Clear? Now, next, the right intention. The primary aim of going to war is to establish peace, justice, and common good rather than pursuing selfish or unjust ends. But when we see Mr. Putin, so Mr. Putin is not interested in what stopping the war. Okay, same goes with this Israel Prime Minister also. So, but when we talk about the just purpose of the war is to establish peace, justice, and for common good. Last resort, and the war should be seen as a last resort when all the process of peacemaking have been tested first, and if they have not worked, and if there's no option, then go for the war. So last resort. So all peaceful means of resolving the conflict, such as diplomacy, negotiations, must be exhausted before going to war. So what we have seen, Russia's invasion blindly. Okay, when we talk about Israel, we are seeing the proportionate counter attack by Israel is far more higher than the impact created on the initial attack on Israel. So hence the proportionality quotient is also there. The harm caused by the war must be proportional to the good it seeks to achieve, and excessive harm to civilians should be avoided. And there should be, going for the war, there should be reasonable chance of success. There should be a reasonable expectation that military action will achieve the intended goals. But what we are seeing is Russia in Ukraine, there are no chances of ending or no chances of winning the war. That is going on. When I talk about USA in Afghanistan for 15 years, USSR in Afghanistan for more than 10 years, US in Vietnam war for almost 20 years. Okay, so that means the purpose was completely different. So what we are seeing is, so first of all is the pre-stage, that means pre-war stage. Now let's talk about the second stage, which is what during the war. So that is jus in bello. So it is also known as the international humanitarian law and provides rules to be followed during armed conflict. So hence, this has got sources, again, the Hague Conventions and later the Geneva Conventions and the additional protocols. And the criteria include discrimination. That means you have to discriminate which are the forces and which are the non-combatants. You are not going to blindly assassinate the non-combatants. So that means there should be proper discriminations. So combatants, that is the forces, should distinguish between the civilians and the military personnel and take precautions to minimize harm to non-combatants. That means they should have properly be differentiating which is the civilians, which is the non-civilian. Proportionality, again, the use of force during the conflict should be proportionate to the military objectives and should not cause excessive harm. And next is fair treatment to prisoners of war. So prisoners of war with Geneva Convention 3, prisoners of war. Now captured enemy combatants should be treated humanely in accordance with international law. Now, once the war has actually ended, so what should be the post-war actions? So it comes the third stage. So just post-bellum, post-war stage. So these principles address the period after the conflict has ended and include elements like just settlement now. That means now the negotiation so has to prevent future wars. That means the terms of peace agreement should be fair, just, and addressing the root causes. So try to address the root causes so that the future conflicts can be avoided. Reconciliations. Effort should be made to promote healing and reconciliation among the former enemies. And punishment of war criminals, that should be taken forward. So war criminals comes into picture, International Court of Justice, ICC, International Criminal Court, sorry, ICC, International Criminal Court for the war criminals. So individuals who committed war crimes should be held accountable and brought to justice. We will be doing ICC and ICJ also today. Very clear. I hope Geneva Conventions and all the international humanitarian law and just war doctrine are very clear now. Now let's talk about a thing which is also linked with what preservation of peace in the world. That is CTBT, Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. So CTBT. So Genesis. Now we know after the world wars were over, so emerged the two blocks. Now the world was moving towards a nuclear arms race between USSR and USA. And finally, the world came almost to a nuclear disaster during the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1961-62. Yeah. That required maybe creating a system where the nuclear disarmament should be there, nuclear arms control should be there, nuclear the test should be controlled, and the production of the nuclear arsenal should be reduced. Yes, all those type of things were brought into question now. So Genesis, the CTBT is a multilateral treaty aimed at banning all nuclear explosions, whether for military or peaceful purposes. So hence we know the roots of the CTBT can be traced to Cold War era between the Soviet and the United States. Okay. Now, in response to the concerns about the environmental and health impact of nuclear test, the international community made efforts to limit testing. Now, the first came into picture Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty of 1963. This was actually the result of what Cuban Missile Crisis, where the nuclear disaster was averted at almost the last moment. Hence, that brought to the consciousness of the world, there should be a system of what restricting this. So hence, it started with what Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty of 1963. So this prohibited nuclear testing where? In atmosphere, that is in the air, outer space, that means out of the space of the Earth's limit, and also underwater. Yes, Muskan. Now, underwater, but allowed underground test. Yes. So, which type of testing were actually prohibited through this? In the atmosphere, outer space, and underwater, but allowed underground test. Then came Threshold Test Ban Treaty of 1974. This also prohibited, yes, the underground nuclear weapon test and establish a nuclear threshold. But still, the comprehensive testing was not banned. Yes, that was not banned. So 1974, the underground nuclear weapon test was prohibited. Why? What was the reason now?
The computerized nuclear testing was started.
The computerized?
So there's another way to test nuclear bombs is through computerization, scientific simulation, sir. Basically.
Okay, scientific, yes. Okay, but what was the major reason? Did any country conduct what underground test at the time?
China.
China?
India
Yes.
did it.
India, you must have heard about first Pokhran test, 1974. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So that was India, 1974, which led to what coming up with what? This the Threshold Test Ban Treaty. Smiling Buddha. Okay. Now, so we have got a history. So there was a Cold War era that the two big nuclear powers were in nuclear race. So they were increasing their arsenal, and the world was facing the disaster of what completely wiping out the humanity. And we came very close in the Cuban Missile Crisis. Finally, it led to, first of all, limiting the test in 3 areas. That is atmosphere, outer space, and underwater, but allowed in underground test. But with again the underground test conducted by India, so finally came one more Threshold Test Ban Treaty, but still not wiping out or comprehensively wiping out any form of test. Now, so when I talk about LTBT or the limited or the partial test ban treaty of 1963, first of all, in 1954, this was the issue raised by India itself. India made the first proposal, 1954, calling for an international agreement to ban nuclear weapon test. Because India was the part of what the third world, or maybe gradually going to become the part of the NAM. Yes. So we were seeing the world in a very different manner, the world which is going to kill each other, but we want a peaceful world. So hence India made the first proposal to ban nuclear weapon test. So hence in 1958, United States, Soviet Union, United Kingdom began a conference on the discontinuance of nuclear test, which resulted now in 1963, which came into picture in 1963 with PTBT, or the Partial Test Ban Treaty, or Limited Test Ban Treaty, LTBT, signed in Moscow by the US, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom. 3 countries. Now, the treaty requires parties to prohibit, prevent, and abstain. Yes, prohibit, prevent, and abstain from carrying out nuclear weapon tests and any nuclear atmosphere. Now, PTBT does not provide for international verification. Yes, so there was, so whether you are conducting a test or not, so there was no set standard of international verification. So it is completely on the responsibility of the countries which have signed the agreement not to do it, or not to conduct it. Now, Muskan, this was before. PTBT is the same. PTBT is also known as LTBT. So Limited Test Ban Treaty of 1963 is also known as Partial Test Ban Treaty of 1963. The PTBT does not provide for international verifications. Okay, now, so next came into picture. Now, finally, yes, CTBT came into picture in September 1996. So, with the signing of the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty in September 1996, the PTBT became redundant. However, should a PTBT party withdraw from the CTBT and not sign the CTBT, it will still be bound by the provisions of PTBT. That means the country which is not finally ratifying CTBT is not a party to that, but initially the part of Partial Test Ban Treaty will abide by the PTBT guidelines. Now, breakthrough with the CTBT. Okay, so chronology is very simple. Yes. So PTBT, yes, also known as LTBT, Partial Test Ban Treaty or the Limited Test Ban Treaty. So this came in 1963. Then came Threshold Test Ban Treaty. This came in 1974. And finally, the comprehensive one, which ultimately came up with what? No more nuclear testing. No more nuclear testing anywhere. So this came into picture in 1996. So 63, 74, 1996. I hope very clear. This is the chronology. Now, the CTBT was negotiated at the Conference of Disarmament in Geneva in 1994. In 1996, the United Nations adopted the CTBT, which imposed a complete ban on nuclear weapon testing, and thus closing the gaps left by the previous treaties. And it was made available for signature in 1996. Now, what is the condition here? When it comes into application, the CTBT will enter into force 180 days after it has been ratified by all 44 states listed in the Annexure 2 of the treaty. That is, the states which possess nuclear reactors, research reactors at the time of its adoption. That means, though it was signed, the condition for coming into effect will be the CTBT will enter into force 180 days after it has been ratified by all those 44 countries which have got nuclear capabilities either for peaceful means or for weapon grade. Yes, we have 44 countries listed in Annexure 2, which are states that possess nuclear reactors or research reactors at the time of its adoption. So what is the current position of CTBT? It has been signed by 187 nations and ratified by 178. So 187 nations have signed and ratified by 178. So has it come into application, CTBT? It has not yet come because out of the 44 nations for it was compulsory to ratify, still certain countries are not ratified, okay, which were there in Annexure 2. However, a treaty cannot formally enter into force until it is ratified by the 44 specific nations. I hope this condition is very clear. So it will come into ratification 180 days after signing, provided it is being ratified by 44 nations mentioned in the Annexure 2 of the treaty, which have got nuclear capabilities, which included peaceful nuclear usage like the nuclear reactors or nuclear research. Though till date, 187 nations have signed and ratified with 178, still it has not come into force because the original 44, all of them have not ratified the treaty. Very clear? Now, so 8 of these nations have yet to ratify. For example, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, Israel, Iran, Egypt, and United States. Yes, because all these countries are actually having what tussles with each other in different forms. Okay, so if India is not ratifying, yes, because of China. China says I'm not ratifying because of India. Okay, Pakistan is not ratifying by saying that because of India I'm not doing it. North Korea want to preserve its authoritarian state, yes, okay, prevent democracy in the country. Hence, it is using nuclear weapons to threaten its own people also, and maybe all other countries in the world, including United States. Okay, Iran is saying that I am under attack from US anytime. So hence, Israel is saying I can be attacked by Arabian countries. So I am going to preserve my testing capabilities. So that's why these are the countries, 8 nations, which have not ratified. That's why it has not come into force.
Sir, Russia has ratified it.
Russia, yes, Russia ratified it. Yeah, this not in the 8 list. Yes, let me test it out or check it out.
Sir,
Russia has withdrawn from CTBT.
yeah,
Russia has recently withdrawn from CTBT.
so it has all earlier ratified it.
Yes, earlier ratified, now withdrawn.
So that means we can say that United States is playing double standards.
So see, when we talk about the P5 powers, yes, P5 powers of the security, UN Security Councils, that's why we require reforms. We require reforms because these 5 powers are using the exclusive powers they have for their own benefit by hook and crook. Yes. Okay, so they raise issues for their own, they raise issues, yes, or whenever the issues are being raised on them, whenever the issues are being raised on them, so they use the exclusive power to safeguard themselves. But those powers were given to them to safeguard the entire world. That's why we require UNSC reforms. Now, next comes to the picture, another thing that's called NPT, Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. That means there should not be a spread of nuclear technology to non-nuclear states. The NPT is that there should not be spread of nuclear technology to non-nuclear states. Proliferation means spreading out. So NPT is an international treaty whose objective is to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology. So first of all, what should be prevented? The spread of nuclear weapons and nuclear technology for making weapons, and to promote, foster, or peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and to further the goal of disarmament. So 3 major purposes. So to prevent spread of nuclear weapons or nuclear weapon technology, but it can be also be proliferating or spreading peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and to further goal of disarmament. The treaty was signed in 1968 and entered into force in 1970. So it is in force. It is in force 1970. Presently, it has 191 members. But India is not a member of NPT because India considers it discriminatory, because as per the definition of nuclear states, as per this, the definition of nuclear states are those which have conducted at least 1 nuclear test by 1967. Okay, so let's see. Now it requires countries to give up any present or future plans to build nuclear weapons. Okay, that means present they cannot build nuclear weapons, and in future they can definitely not build nuclear weapons. Now it represents the only binding commitment in the multilateral treaty to the goal of disarmament by nuclear weapon states. It represents the only binding commitment. So it's the only binding commitment with respect to what? Disarmament with respect to nuclear weapon states. But who are these nuclear weapon states as per this definition? The nuclear weapon states are the parties under NPT who have either manufactured and exploded a nuclear weapon or other nuclear devices before 1st January 1967. This means what? This means the current P5, the permanent 5, are the countries or were the countries who tested the nuclear devices before 1967. So this means they will be having the exclusive power. What they will do, they will be what dictating other countries, including India, not to develop nuclear weapons. But what they will not be doing is they will not be reducing their own nuclear weapons. Okay, so hence this is seen as discriminatory by Indians. Very clear. So now nuclear weapons states. So all those are P5 countries. So India stand. So India is one of the only 5 countries that have either did not sign the NPT or signed but withdrew later, thus becoming a part of a list that includes Pakistan. Pakistan is also not signed. Israel, North Korea, and South Sudan. South Sudan, why not? Is still difficult to find. Pakistan, definitely, because what India does, so Pakistan will be doing the same. Okay. Now we talk about Israel. Israel always say that I can be attacked anytime by the combination of Arab states. So hence I require a protection. North Korea to maintain its authoritarian regime and hence creating a deterrence for the world to intrude in North Korea. And what is the reason of South Sudan is difficult to understand.
South Sudan has actually not signed it because there's no government and stability to sign it. So,
so there had been governments. There had been governments. Now South Sudan came into picture maybe in 2011 onwards. There had been governments. Yes, it's an unstable country.
yes.
But the governments who were in place, they got the time and the chance to sign, but they did not sign. Yes, add on. Parthasadi, you want to add on further?
No, sir, because that's what I have come to know. I don't know how reliable it is.
Maybe the issue of instability. There may not be a government which is stable there. Still, the civil war is going on. Maybe the reason. So we know India has always considered NPT as discriminatory and has refused to sign. So, but NPT is in force. NPT is in force. Now, though India did not sign, what NPT, but India got the benefit of what peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and that came what India US was civil nuclear deal, if you remember. Okay, so where India was given an exceptional benefit of getting access to what nuclear energy and nuclear technology for peaceful uses. Yes, NSG waiver. Now comes to the picture. So we have been tracking down the systems which are in place to prevent war. In terms of war, what are the systems to be followed? And in case of war, if the war is unjust and the war criminals, there should be a method of punishment. In case of states, there should be again a method of punishment. So at least there are 2 organizations which come into picture. One is now International Criminal Court, that is ICC. That is ICC. Yes, yes, Muskan, in nuclear supplier group, not national security guards. Okay. So now, yes, International Criminal Court, ICC. Now, ICC has the power to conduct the cases, okay, on the war criminals, not the countries, individuals. Okay, ICC. So it is the only permanent international criminal tribunal. So tribunals are the courts with specific purpose. Specific purpose. So tribunals are the courts for a specific purpose. So here, so dealing with war criminals. So it was created by the 1998 Rome Statute and began functioning from 2002 when it came into force. So what is the mandate? It can investigate and where warranted, wherever required, tries individual charged with what grave crimes of grave war crimes. like in genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes of aggression. And headquarter is Hague. So even the International Court of Justice, headquarter is Hague. International Criminal Court is the headquarter is Hague. Now, so the only major difference here is the ICC can investigate or tries individuals. International Court of Justice, even nations. Yes, nations. Okay. Now, so headquarter Hague and Netherlands. Members 124. Member 124 nations are state parties to the Rome Statutes and recognize. Now, the notable exceptions are the big countries like the US has not signed, is not a state party, China, Russia, India. Yes, not a part. Yes, it's not a part. It will come. It's not a part. Yes, good. You are sharing information, but it is also there in the sheet. Now, so major exceptions are US is not signed, not a state party to ICC. China is not a state party to ICC. Russia, and that means the bigger players are not the party of ICC. Okay. Now, funding. The court is funded by contributions from the state parties and by voluntary contributions from the government, international organizations, individuals, corporations, and other entities. So that is voluntary contributions. Now, composition, judges. So how many judges are there? There are 18 judges. And they should be each from different member countries. So different member countries and elected to non-renewable 9-year terms. Yes, means there is no chance of re-election. That is non-renewable. Now the presidency consists of 3 judges. So out of these 18, so 3 will be considered as the president judges, comprising of the president and the 2 vice presidents, elected from among the judges. Now, judicial divisions. Now, these 18 judges are divided into 3 divisions. One is a pre-trial division, second is a trial division, and the last is the appeals division. So 3 major divisions. So that means almost approximately 6 judges each, if you want to distribute. Now, there will also be one office of the prosecutor. Now, this office of the prosecutor is receiving referrals and claims or maybe proofs which are required to be investigated. So, OTP is responsible for receiving referrals and substantiated information on crimes within the jurisdiction of the court, examines these referrals and conducts investigations and prosecutions before the court. So very clear. So 18 judges, each from different countries, 9-year term, but there's no chances of re-election.
Sir. Sir, I'm unable to understand this pre-trial division and trial division. Appeal is okay.
The pre-trial means, so pre-trials may be requiring assessment by a certain body of judges. Okay, whether there's a chances of the case exist or not. Okay. If the cases are being discarded at pre-trial stage, that means there's no requirement of trial stage now.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, got it. Okay, now.
So just one question.
Yes, please.
Sir, how are the Indian judges elected to this?
The Indian judges are not elected to ICC, but Indian judges are elected to ICJ, International Court of Justice, because India is not a member country here.
Okay, sir.
Clear? Okay. So now, so here it is clearly written, the court has 18 judges, each from a different member country. Now, there's a registry also. Registry is basically the administration wing. Yes. The registrar which manages the cases for helping the judges. Okay. The core function of registry is to provide administrative and operational support to the chambers and the office of the prosecutor. Now, what is the jurisdiction of ICC? Now, the ICC handles prosecutions of individuals. Very important. Prosecutions of individuals. ICC is only competent to hear a case. So where it has got the power to hear the case, if the country where the offense was committed is the party of the Rome Statute, that is a member country, where the offense have been committed as a member country, or the country which is committing the offense is a party to the Rome Statute. That means it can only act if the cases are emerging or the violations are being done by the countries which are the member countries, So that means it cannot act on those countries which are not the member countries. But recently what we have seen, recently there was an arrest warrant issued against Vladimir Putin by ICC. But that can only be a news, but it cannot do any action. Okay, because Russia is not a member country. Because here ICC can only be competent to hear a case if the perpetuous country of origin is a party to the Rome Statute. Party to the Rome Statute. Yes, there are more criteria to initiate cases. Yes, if the United Nations Security Council. So here it is written in the last line. When a situation is not within the court's jurisdiction, the United Nations Security Council can refer the situation to the ICC granting it jurisdiction. But when you talk about United Nations Security Council, the P5, Russia is already there. So it will not be letting through its veto power to grant access of this jurisdiction by UNSC to prosecute Russia itself. Yes. I hope you got it.
No, sir, no.
Okay. So he is saying that first of all, ICC have got a jurisdiction only on the member countries. Now, for example, it can be given extra power by the United Nations Security Council. But United Nations Security Council comprises of 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members. But now, in the case of United Nations Security Council deciding to give the case to ICC to prosecute Vladimir Putin, yes. So what will happen? Russia already has got a veto power. So it will put it veto and install it. Yes. So it will not be letting the UNSC give that extra power to ICC. Okay. So Muskan, if there's something extra, you can add on by searching. Okay. But what this can be what visualized from this context. Yes. So Russia will not be letting the president of Russia being prosecuted by ICC when UNSC decides to give power to ICC. It will not be letting. Now next comes to the picture, International Court of Justice, ICJ. Now ICJ is known as the World Court and is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. Yes. So it is so now when you talk about, just let's see the previous slide also, just for your clarity. ICC is not the part of UN. Yes. So here, while not a United Nations organization, yes, ICC is not a part of United Nations, but the court has got a cooperation agreement with the United Nations. So ICC is not directly the part of United Nations, but it has got a working relationship with UN. And that working relationship is UNSC can empower ICC to prosecute beyond its jurisdiction. That is the power. So national courts, for example, went to the OTP, yes, when we're talking about the prosecutor, the report is reaching from a particular country or extreme grave violations of human rights with a particular country. And that particular country, the topmost court, is not pursuing the case or not acting on that issue. In that case, the complaint reaching ICC can issue notice and take action. Okay. Smriti?
Yes, sir. Understood.
Okay. Now, let's talk about ICJ now. So it's a world court. Now, this is one of the 6 organs of United Nations. It's a principal judicial organ of the United Nations. It was established in June 1945 by the Charter of the UN and began work in April 1946. Again, the headquarter is Hague. So both the ICC and ICJ have got headquarters at Hague, Netherlands. Now, also one special thing to note about this, there are 6 principal organs of United Nations, that is UN Security Council, UN General Assembly, that is UN Secretariat, okay? International Court of Justice, United Nations Economic and Security Social Council. These type of what principal organs are there. Out of these six, only one is located in Hague. Rest of the 5 are located in New York itself. So which is located in Hague or outside New York or outside US? That is ICJ. So of the 6 principal organs, it is the only one which is not located in New York. Yes, Muskan, trusteeship is the 6th. Now, official languages are French and English. Okay, very clear. So it is one of the 6 principal organs. That means it is the judicial organ of the United Nations. And here, out of those 6, 5 are in New York. Only one, that is ICJ, is in Hague, Netherlands. Okay, we are not delving into world history. Just stick to the current part. Now, powers and functions, the court may entertain 2 types of cases. Now, that is between the countries, between 2 member states. So now first, it can act as a dispute settlement body between the 2 member states in what is called contentious issues. That is, the issues of contentious issues or contentious cases are the issues of conflict between 2 countries. So just such disputes may concern like the land border, maritime boundaries, territorial sovereignty, the non-use of force, violations of international humanitarian law, non-interference in the internal affairs of states, and diplomatic relations. That means the issues which can result in a war between the 2 countries are the contentious cases which are being heard at in the first set of cases which are being heard at the ICJ. Now the second, it can accept requests to issue an advisory opinion. I hope the first part is very clear. Whatever issues which are there between 2 countries which can lead to what? A war are to be taken or are to be settled, yes, through what? The first type of cases that can be heard at the ICJ. Now let's talk about the second type of cases. It can accept requests to issue an advisory opinion on legal question referred to it by the UN body or specialized agencies. These opinions can clarify the ways in which such organizations may lawfully function or strengthen the authority in relation to the member states. What is the meaning of this? So what type of advisory opinion it can give? To whom? To the UN body and the specialized agency. For example, WHO. Okay, so WHO, for example, during COVID, if it wants to create a global regulation with respect to COVID crisis, so that means what type of regulation it can bring for the entire world, for all the countries in the world, it can refer that case to what? The ICJ for advisory opinion. So what type of suitable action or law or policy or regulation will benefit the entire world? It can take the opinion of the ICJ. Okay, which can be justified, which can be non-discriminatory in nature. Very clear. So here it's clearly written, it can accept request to issue an advisory opinion on legal questions referred to it by the UN body or special agency. So we have seen 15 special agencies. They operate at global level. They create policies for the global execution. So any new upcoming policy which can impact again the countries, that can be referred by those agencies to the ICJ to give opinion. Very clear. Now, now there are 2 types of cases. First cases are the contentious cases and second are the advisory issues. Now, with respect to the first cases, that is the court's judgment in the contentious cases, that is the conflict cases between the 2 countries, here are final and binding on the parties, and that is without appeal. That means if the matter have reached to the level of ICJ and the ICJ is going to give the verdict, that is binding for both the parties. And then there cannot be appeal. But when you talk about the advisory, the court's judgment, that is advisory opinions, are not binding. That's why those are just advisory in nature. Advisory in nature. Now let's talk about a composition of ICJ. So 15 judges, all from different countries, elected to 9-year terms by majority votes, how? Of UN General Assembly and the Security Council. So there will be majority votes, for example, 190 countries are there in the UN General Assembly. Security Council 15, 5 permanent and 10 non-permanent. So that is separately those judges should be getting majority votes. So majority votes out of 193 separately, and the majority votes out of 15 separately. So who are elected to 9-year terms by the majority votes in UN General Assembly and the Security Council. And here the judges are eligible for re-election. Now this is again a major difference between ICC and ICJ. Now both the terms for both the organization judges almost the same, 9 years. But in case of ICC, there is no provision for re-election. But in case of the ICJ, they may be re-elected. So option is there. Now the 15 judges of the courts are distributed in the following regions. So 3 judges from African region, 2 from the Latin America and Caribbean, 3 from Asia, 5 from Western Europe and other states, and 2 from Eastern Europe. Okay. So Western Europe and other states include what? US and all these type of countries. Yes, the North American countries. So 3, 2, 3, 5 and 2. So all these. Now, one more thing here to note is, once elected a member of the court, now that judge will not be aligning with any government of his country or nor of any state. That is expected from a judge. Now this another clause which is very important. In addition, the ICJ allows a state party, that is a country, which is a party to a case before it, which does not have a judge of its nationality on the bench, to appoint a person to sit as a judge as ad hoc. Yes, here it is talking about ad hoc judge. Just listen, ad hoc judge. For example, if India is a party to a particular dispute, okay, that means now there is a bench. And if this bench, which is hearing the case, is not having any Indian judge, there is no Indian judge, that means that India can request for an ad hoc judge. Why the provision is there? Because maybe the judges who belong to different countries maybe certain degree, may carry certain degree of biasness. So hence, India can ask for ad hoc judge, which can be Indian or which can be from a friendly country. It's not simply Indian. It's not simply Indian only. Right? So here, just to create neutrality of the decisions, discussions being taken before the verdict. Very clear? So here, this is one more thing. Yes, Muskan, there's a probability of what? But see, initially it was done because these things are emerging from the world wars. Yes, these are emerging where the countries are completely enemy of each other. Okay, so they were not seeing any reason, yes, in terms of what discussing or hearing the issues on the basis of issues merit. So there were more probability of what, if you are in the in front of a bench which is coming from a country which is completely enemy country to you, there are more chances of biasness at that time. So that's why this provision was actually added. Trust issues. Okay.
And sir, what is this binding means?
Pardon?
Sir,
Binding means that you have to implement, you have to follow.
But sir, China has refused in the Philippines case that 9-line.
हाँ, so see, binding है, मैं नहीं मानता. It's simply, okay, मेरे पास ताकत है, I am दादा, I am गुंडा, मैं नहीं मानता. Okay. Is the way. So they have been what various South China issue, they have been what various ICJ judgments. China ने कहा मैं तो नहीं मानूंगा.
So there is nothing sort of international enforcement for that.
The international enforcement can be when the Security Council is reformed. Because China is again a P5 member.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Any action against China, it can veto. So that's the issue. That's why the UNSC reforms are required. So on this basis, so you are supposed to read about all the 6 organs of UN. So you have to read about UNSC, UNGA, UN Secretariat, UN Economic and Social Council, and UN Trusteeship, the remaining 5. Yes, we have just discussed the ICJ, which is the 6th. So just read on. Now let us add on the recent G20 summit, which happened in New Delhi. So this is the first time India hosted the G20 Leaders Summit in September 2023. The G20 Summit. Now the theme was Vasudev Kutumbakam. Yes, the world is a family. Now the major outcomes. Yes, so major outcome is yes, the addition of African Union. So now G20 will now be stated as G21. Okay, so G20 leaders agreed to admit African Union as a permanent member of the G20, which is a major step towards increasing the representation of developing countries in the forum. Yes. So G21. So yesterday we talked about African Union. Okay, so now that means now African Union is now being immersed as the member, yes, member of the G20. Now the major initiative. So that means so. For what purposes these type of conventions and meetings are there or summits are there? Political, economic, environmental, yes, cultural. These are the major things. So now when we include an area which is African Union, first of all, this is a acceptance of the country and their government, that is the political intake. Yes, this is political decision. Now when we talk about IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. Now this is the economic initiative. So economic collaboration. So coming of IMEC. So India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. So when we see the IMEC map, so IMEC is a proposed route. This is a combination of sea route plus rail route. Sea route and rail route. Now when I talk about a sea route and rail route, so now from via sea, from Mumbai, it is supposed to read UAE, that is the port of Jabal Ali. And now again another UAE Al Kuwait, that is again rail route via rail. Then crossing the entire Saudi Arabia, Harad, Riyadh is the capital. And then one more city in Saudi Arabia, Al Haditha, means 3 major cities touching Saudi Arabia. Then from here into Israel, the Haifa port. And from that port again, the sea route entering Europe via Greece. The port that is Piraeus in Greece. Piraeus in Greece. So it's a combination of what sea route as well as what rail route. So this is proposed IMEC corridor. So India touching Middle East, India reaching Europe. Now IMEC. Now a memorandum of understanding was signed between governments of, now who ultimately signed this? Yes, not only the IMEC countries, but also United States, the governments of India, the US also signed, Saudi Arabia, European Union, UAE, France, Germany, Italy to establish IMEC. That means European countries are involved, European Union was involved, United States were involved in terms of signing the IMEC concept. So IMEC is a part of a broader initiative that of what? PJII. So have you heard about this PJII? So we know BRI, Belt and Road Initiative of China. PJII is a counter to BRI by G7 countries. Okay. By G7 countries. Yes, Bhumika. And what is the initiative of European Union with respect to countering BRI? So PRI is by G7 countries. Oh, so PGI is by G7 countries. What is the no, Build Back Better was the initial what term that was used for PGII. Back Better, yeah, Build Better World was a term which was used initially for PGII. But there is something which has been also launched by European Union as a counter to BRI. So note down, that is Global Gateway. Global Gateway. Okay, so IMEC is a part of a broader initiative called the Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment, PGI. That's why the government of US is also involved here. Okay, the G7 countries are also involved here. Now, the PGI was initially introduced during G7 summit in UK in 2021. So PGI aims to finance infrastructure projects in developing countries. So IMEC is a significant infrastructure project connecting India, Middle East, and Europe. Now, the project aims to establish a network of transport corridors, including railways and sea lanes. And yes, it is seen as a response to China's BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, providing an alternative infrastructure network. Now, Global Biofuels Alliance. Now, some of the students are now becoming more relaxed because now they know they will be getting recorded lectures. So the live online attendance is low. Yes, that's the problem with recorded lectures. That's why I was initially not thinking of sharing it. Okay, but as the students were actually forcing me, sir, share kar do, share kar do. So finally, I shared the link, and now they are completely relaxed. चलो recorded तो है, कभी भी देख लेंगे, है ना? तो कभी भी देख लेंगे, तो कभी भी सिलेक्शन हो जाएगा, है ना? तो कभी भी सिलेक्शन हो जाएगा और कभी भी देख लेंगे. So that do not work. That's actually okay. So now you should be regular in the class. Otherwise, see, the motivation also of what conducting classes goes down. Yes? When the number of people are trying to skip the classes, ke recording dekh lenge. So it's not a very motivating thing for a teacher. Yes. Yes, Sai, you can speak.
So I missed that point wherein you said something about global getaway. So
Global
So can you
Gateway.
repeat it?
So Global Gateway was also an initiative to counter Belt and Road Initiative by the European Union. I hope I am audible. Okay.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now, so that means, so what came into picture? First of all, the African Union officially entered into G20 as per the India hosting the summit. Now, second was the launching of IMEC, which is again a initiative within PGII, connected PGII. Now, next came into picture, Global Biofuels Alliance, GBA. So GBA is again an India-led initiative that aims to develop an alliance of governments, international organizations, industry to promote the adoption of biofuels. So that means adoption of biofuels. So hence, Global Biofuel Alliance, GBA. So again, it is an India-led initiative. So the initiative seeks to position biofuels as a key component of the energy transition. Yes, we have to transition towards energy which are more climate friendly, at least in terms of emissions, and contribute to job creation and economic growth. The alliance was launched with 9 initiating members. Yes. So which are those? India, which is again a major grain producing country because usually the certain grains are converted to biofuels. The US is again a major grain producing country. Brazil also. Argentina is also a major grain producing country. Bangladesh wants to become part. Italy is also have a good farming. Yes. Now these countries and other countries can also want to join, but these are the major grain producing countries. So GBA members constitute major producers or consumers of biofuels. For example, United States come first, consumer and producer, Brazil, and then India. And they contribute about 85% share in production and about 81% consumption of ethanol. So Global Biofuel Alliance. Similarly, they also agreed for tripling the global renewable energy capacity by 2030. So work towards tripling the global renewable energy capacity by 2030. Now, hence, they're supposed to invest so as to control the emission of 7 billion tons of CO2 emissions by 2030. That means they need to triple the investment in renewable capacity so as to reduce the release of 7 billion tons of CO2 emissions by 2030. Now, one more thing is financial inclusion document. So we know India has done very good in what financial inclusion, and it has speedified with the coming of what mobile technologies and the use of what internet, mobile phones, applications. It has expanded a lot. That was appreciated by the global bodies. The G20 Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion, prepared by the World Bank, has lauded, means has praised the transformative impact of India's digital public platform over the past decade. The document emphasizes the following initiatives. We know the trinity of Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile, Jan Dhan Yojana, government to person payments, okay, which also includes direct benefit transfers, UPIs, private sector efficiencies, digital payment, streamlined private organizations operations, okay, lower compliance cost for KYCs. That means whatever we have done with respect to banking, the transactions, and India has done reasonably well in this regard, was appreciated. Hence, it has been taken into a learning exercise by various countries to also adopt this worldwide. Now, next is commitment to global food security and nutrition. Now, the G20 declaration highlights the human suffering and impacts of war in Ukraine. So it has led to what? Scarcity of the transportation of what? Agriculture goods. We know Ukraine is the breadbasket of the entire Europe. Huge wheat production is there. Various countries are importing, and that was stalled by the conflict in the Black Sea area. So, and the G20 leaders called for the full and timely implementation of Black Sea Grain Initiative. Now, before moving forward, let us see what is Black Sea Grain Initiative. So here it is, Black Sea Grain Deal. When you come down lower in the your handout, you'll find Black Sea Grain Deal. Now, what was about the deal when it came into picture? The deal was brokered by United Nations and Turkey and was signed in Istanbul in July 2022. So conflict between Russia and Ukraine started in February 2022. And this was signed almost five months later. Yes, that is in July. Because the conflict was growing in this area, it blockaded the transportation of what? The food grains from Ukraine, which produces huge quantity of wheat, yes, and which is imported by both of the rich countries, and they also go to poor countries from to Africa. The deal provides, so what is deal provides? The deal provides for a safe humanitarian corridor for the export of Ukrainian grains to the Black Sea. So the major port here, which is the major port, exporting port of Ukraine, is Odessa. We will be doing the ports of Black Sea separately. Okay, but here the major port of export from the Ukraine is Odessa. Now, Ukraine is termed as the breadbasket of Europe. Ukraine is among the top, one of the largest exporters of the wheat, maize, rapeseed, sunflower seeds, and sunflower oil. That is the cooking oil also and the consumption cereals. It access to the deep sea ports in Black Sea enables even countries of the Europe to import from it, and yes, the grain importers from the Middle East and North Africa. And for also what containing the food inflation also. Yeah, if the trade is stuck, that means due to scarcity, prices will rise. So Black Sea Grain Deal. So this was the Black Sea Grain Deal. So the deal was initially for the period of 120 days. Now with an option to extend or terminate thereafter. So what we have seen recently, Russia has withdrawn from the Black Sea Grain Deal now, but the proposal was put in G20 to make it what more strengthened. So it depends upon the convincing power of the world to again renegotiate with Russia to again restart the Black Sea Grain Deal. Now the three major Ukrainian ports are shown here. Odessa is actually shown on the map. Yes, it's a major port. The other two ports are Chornomorsk and Yuzhny. Yes, difficult names to remember, but Odessa is easy to remember. Odessa port. So this is Black Sea Grain Deal. Okay, so we were here. Commitment to global food security and nutrition. So Black Sea Grain Initiative. Now further, the Agriculture Working Group during the G20 presidency reached a consensus on two important aspects. First is G20 high-level principles on food security and nutrition. And second is the millet initiative, which is known as Maharshi. Okay, so that means the working body on agriculture reached to two major consensus. High-level principles of food security and nutrition. Second is millet initiative, which is known as Maharshi. So what are the principles? What are the high-level principles on food security? The 7 principles highlight, yes, there should be humanitarian assistance for supply of food across the world. Okay, so second is increasing food production and food security net programs. Climate smart approaches. So that means to maintain the production level and increase the production level of agriculture. Climate smart. Inclusivity of the agriculture system. Okay. Now, One Health approach. So One Health approach includes that, okay, environment, humans, and animals. All three are interdependent on each other. So One Health approach means keeping all three healthy, because all these are interdependent on each other. One Health approach. Digitization of agriculture sector and scaling up both the government investment and the private investment in agriculture. So these are 7 principles linked with what? Agricultural discussions. Very clear? 7 principles. Now, Maharshi is Millets and Other Ancient Grains International Research Initiative. So millets are again now coming into picture. Coarse grains are again coming into picture. So earlier, wheat was the food of, when you go 50, 60, 70 years back, wheat was the food of the richer class. And the poor used to eat millets. Now, it's now going the reverse direction. Millets are now gradually to be upgraded to the next level. Wheat maybe in the future may lose relevance. Yes. Okay, so the millets now. So Maharshi's Millets and Other Ancient Grains International Initiative aims at advancing research collaborations and other ancient grains during International Year of Millets 2023 and after. Continue the same after also. Further promoting transparent, fair and rules-based trade in agriculture. Finally, G20 leaders emphasize the importance of strengthening agriculture market information that should be floated across the world for agriculture marketing, for taking fair decisions, transparent decisions, and Group on Earth Observations, Global Agriculture Monitoring, that is a monitoring system of agriculture trade. Okay, marketing information and monitoring systems. Clear? I have very clear all of these. So G20, what we see, various initiatives. Let's see once again. So first of all, G20 means African Union is now becoming part of G20. IMAC, launching of IMAC. Then comes into picture Global Biofuels Alliance, again India-led initiative. Then comes tripling the global renewable energy capacity by 2030. Then again, G20 Global Partnership of Financial Inclusion Documents, that is learning from India's expertise. Now further, commitment to global food security, that is Black Sea Grain Initiative to be strengthened, millet initiative called Maharshi, and 7 principles promoting food security and nutrition. And lastly, promoting agriculture marketing information and agriculture monitoring, GeoGlam. Very clear? So all this will be for your revision for the week. I hope enough content for the week to revise. And I will be requesting the students to what come live online.
सर एक स्लाइड रह गई सर.
एक slide रह गई, वो उसी का part है, कर लो. I'm tired now.
Yes sir. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So yes. So please. Okay. So by tonight or maybe by tomorrow morning, all the videos will be uploaded. Okay. So that you can see and revise all the content, the handouts, and that will be helping you out a lot. And focus on the locations. Yes, locations are more confusing to remember. And we are going to resume the class on Monday. I hope it's clear.
So how to go location?
How to? Yes.
So how to go about the locations? Like how to remember?
So I was saying,
So
so for example, you have done what around 25, 30 or 40 locations. Just do what as the examination is still far away. And what the maximum is, do 5 locations per day. That is more than enough. So 5 locations per day. So that means in the coming months, you will be covering around 80 to 90 locations very easily and revising them again and again. So I also told students yesterday,
all right.
so start your day with 5 locations and end your day with the same 5 locations as the revision of the as a revision before going to the sleep or bed. Just whatever time you sleep. Okay, start your day and end your day with locations. That's the best way. Yeah. Okay, so let's meet on Monday. Thank you for participation. Let's resume the class on Monday. Thank you.